She don't want the baby for.
I can't do this. I already got 2 fucking kids. I can't. I barely even want those 2 kids.
Yeah, but you told me to do it and I did it.
You're talking out of the ordinary right now. I don't want these kids. I don't want none of.
I just watched a video of a woman crying hysterically, saying that she's overwhelmed, she doesn't want any more kids, she already has 2 kids, they're pregnant again, she feels like it's too much on her body, she feels tired, she feels like she can't do it anymore, and she doesn't want to be a mom. She's saying all this to her husband. Her husband is laying in the bed and recording her, telling her she's doing too much, and asking her why she's doing it and saying she'll be fine. And you're doing all of this because of some kids. What? I just want to remind y'all that hell is hot. Because what? That lady is having an emotional breakdown. She has used her body to give you 2 kids and 1 on the way. Okay? And the best you got to offer is you're doing too much? That's what you got. No hug. No come here, babe. Let's talk about it. I know it's a lot going on. The best you got is you need to calm down because you're doing too much. Women are putting their lives on the line to have babies for y'all. And y'all don't even be caring. Y'all don't even be caring. Hell is hot. And that's where y'all belong.
Firstly, I'd like to point out that this mom, who is clearly struggling in the clip that we just watched, did mention that she's talking out of the ordinary. So in my opinion, she's clearly having an emotional breakdown. This is a moment in time she's being vulnerable with her husband. Likely her pregnancy hormones are exacerbating these negative feelings she's having. And this clip is so important in highlighting why, man or woman, it's very important that if you want to have kids, you need to try your best in being with a partner who's going to be supportive, because pregnancy comes with ups and downs, and being a parent comes with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we do not talk about this enough as a society. In my opinion, this clip shows that very likely her husband is unsupportive in the home, unsupportive in raising those first 2 kids. And you can see that toll, the fact that all of the child rearing and homekeeping is likely on her shoulders, plus the pregnancy hormones doing what they do in pregnancy. This is a mother who's realizing introducing a 3rd child into that dynamic is probably not something she feels she can cope with, at least in this present moment. And we know this, her husband is unsupportive, because in the clip that he chose to film, she's having a vulnerable moment. She's crying, and her husband does not offer any comfort. He doesn't show any understanding. There's no support from him. And so the internet is filled with so many clips of moms who are struggling and expressing that. So I wanted to highlight why choosing to be intentional with having kids is important, because men, fathers, also express regret. And you'll see that in the upcoming clips.
I had a wonderful life before having kids. I had an exciting career in the creative industries. Through this career, I met my now ex-wife. My love for her hit me like a bolt out of the blue, and I know she felt the same way. We met in our mid-20s and were married in our early 30s. And we spent 8 amazing years together, mutually supporting each other to build our own respective careers. I was so proud of my wife. I watched her grow into a brilliant writer, artist, and journalist, and she supported me in all my dreams. As both of our careers started hitting their peak, we thought, why not add to the happiness? We'd love a baby. She and I were both in agreement that kids were something that we wouldn't stress over, but if it happened, it happened. It happened. Our first amazing daughter was born, and then a year later, our second. I worried about my wife with 2 pregnancies close together, but she coped well and loved being pregnant. For a few months after the birth of our second, it was the most blissfully happy time of our lives. But 6 months in, we noticed that our second daughter wasn't meeting her milestones. Another 6 months of pediatric appointments and doctor visits, and endless tests followed. My wife's return to work date came and went. We had planned to put both our children in daycare so she could return to work, but we couldn't put such a sick baby into daycare. Our older child already didn't get much time with us. We didn't want to put her in childcare too and risk damaging her relationship with us. I had to take a back seat from my job. I wanted to quit it entirely, but one of us had to bring in an income. They were some of the darkest days of my life. I watched the life drain out of my wife, who I loved with my whole heart. I became the default parent to our oldest, who became so mature for her age it hurt me to see. I wondered how forcing her to be around all that grief and sadness was affecting her happiness, which filled me with tremendous guilt. And then there was the fear of what was going to happen to our second, still not meeting her milestones. She didn't laugh, she didn't babble, she wouldn't eat, she screamed in pain much of the time. We got a diagnosis eventually. It was devastating to hear that our beautiful kid was going to require treatment for the rest of her life and that she would likely never be able to live completely independently. Our lives became about caring for our sick daughter and trying our best to hide the grief and the pain and make sure we gave enough love, care, and attention to our eldest and didn't let her see too much or feel too much responsibility for her sister. My wife was a shell of herself and she couldn't work. I felt guilty that I still got to have a career at all while she gave up the career she loves so much. But my job performance suffered too. I watched my friends go on to do great things in the industry that I had built my life around. I felt like I fell behind, and I grew to resent my whole life. Not anyone in it, it wasn't their fault, but it all felt unfair. A decade followed of me trying to hold my world together in my hands, work enough to support your family, but not so much that you're leaving your wife to do it alone. Support your wife through her grief, bury your own so that your kids don't see it. Pressure from all sides and no end in sight. I used to come home from work and go straight into caring for the kids so my wife could have a break. The only time I had to myself was late at night or early in the morning, when I could sit in the shower and cry for an hour so nobody had to witness it. To say it was hard was an understatement. When the kids were teenagers, my marriage ended. We weren't the same people we had been when we married. The stress and the grief had shaped us into different people. But now I look back on that as a good thing. We had 50-50 custody, and I realized those weeks off provided my ex-wife with the time she needed to find herself again, and similarly for me. The freedom to cry openly in my own house, the ability to sleep long enough that I could really enjoy my kids when I was with them. The guilt started to let go of me when my ex went back to work and very quickly rose to prominence in her career again. Life is better these days. My kids have both reached adulthood. My oldest is still mature and sensible and wonderful. My youngest is a miracle. They are my whole world and I live and breathe for them. But I remember a time in life where I had so many other things to live and breathe for. I think I'm getting better at finding happiness in the circumstances I have now, but I miss the person I was. I miss the life I had before I knew what pain and grief and fear really were. My youngest will never live independently. She'll always split time between her mom and me. She's brave and funny, and we love having her in our lives, but I feel tremendous guilt because she is in pain more often than not. She has spoken about seeking out assisted dying when the pain in her body becomes too much. We support her in this, but sometimes it feels like there was absolutely no point to it. What a selfish thing we did to bring this wonderful little person into the world on a whim and force her to live a life where she is in pain and feels obliged to keep living for us, because we went through so much pain to get her to this point. I love my kids, I love my family, and right now there are truly more good days than bad. But I regret having them. I regret doing this to myself, to their mother, to them, especially because the decision to have them at the time felt so nonchalant. We thought only of the cute babies and toddlers we would have and gave no thought to the grown adults we were raising. Your kids are going to grow up. They will go through pain. They will grieve and suffer and love and laugh and feel as much as you do. You are making a lifelong commitment to these people. Childhood is such a small portion of that. Don't have them on a whim.
That must have been a difficult story to share, but I'm so glad he did. As a father, he took us through the struggles he experienced and not just the impact it had on him, but also on his marriage. Now, I'm not saying that people should or should not have kids. That's not what this video is about. But I wanted to highlight, just the same as the father said, people should not have kids on a whim. I think men and women need to become more intentional about having kids. And the best way I can put this into context is to say that I think a lot of people have certain assumptions about parenting And maybe because as a society we don't talk enough about the struggles of being a parent, we don't talk enough about the good. And there is so much good and so much positive in bringing life into the world, in having children. But we also need to talk about the bad and the ugly and the pitfalls. The fact that parents need to be supported and they need to have, quote unquote, this village around them. We need to talk about the fact that, are you financially stable to have kids, in terms of the child you have might not be a healthy child. Do you have the finances to ensure you can care for that child? Even if your child is healthy, do you have the finances to put them in daycare? I think a lot of people have children, in my opinion, not recognizing that that is a lifetime commitment. At least that's my opinion. You've chosen to bring a life into the world, you chose to birth that child. And so, in my opinion, you owe them care as their parent. It doesn't stop or expire when they turn 16, 18, or whatever number you set in your head. And this was clearly highlighted in the story by this father who has a child who is going to be forever more reliant on him and his ex wife. So I think if a lot more people talk about the struggles they face and where they needed help and support, then people who want to have kids are going to be better informed. So I have one further story, again from a father's perspective. He says, I don't think I'll ever overcome the regret, and this is changing me deeply. I'm a 30-year-old male father of twin boys. I've posted my story quite a few times already, but in short, I was on the no kids train, met a great girl. She convinced me to make this lifelong mistake. It's been hell since the very beginning. He says he went to therapy and recently has had some proper rest. Therapy helped him in terms of staying alive, but he says that the proper rest gave him time to really reflect and think about what happened. He states he used to be a good guy, a nice guy. He did good just for honor and for goodwill. He felt good about himself on almost everything. Life was great before them. But now, every day, he's becoming the opposite of who he was. His morals, beliefs, and even habits are changing, and he's only becoming more apathetic and very egotistic. He states that in the last month, great things happened, but knowing that he's stuck with this burden for the rest of his life, he just said he felt numb. He goes on to say that this week I was the MVP in my job. He was a great leader, the problem solver, and the solution bringer. Everyone praised and lauded him. He said some risky investments he held on to gave some great returns. He slept somewhere else and he could sleep long enough to dream. But none of that seems to have any effect. He says, I can always hear their crying, and that takes a chunk of day and night time. He says, I make good money, but most of it goes into the trash, and he specifies that trash is special formulas, food, diapers. He says that when he looks in the mirror with disgust, he has no energy, discipline, or any will to do something about what he sees, so he's unable to eat healthy, go to the gym, or whatever. He says that he can also see his partner, the mother of his kids, becoming unhealthy. She's living almost 100% for the kids. He reports proposing that they try to split the burden of childcare between himself and maybe babysitters, but that she didn't accept that. He then posits that maybe his wife, the mother of his children, is correct about him probably not making or doing a good job of caring for the children. Now, why would she think that? Honestly, he says, life is miserable. I'm trying some depression meds, but I don't think they'll work unless they take away the memory of this stupid 30 male decision of saying yes to having kids and everything after. So, this was a comment in response to that father's Reddit post. It says, I wish we were more open and honest about the struggles of parenting in our society. Maybe so many people wouldn't be conned into having kids. I'm sorry you are having a really hard time. It may not help much, but you are definitely not alone. I like this comment because it speaks to the purpose of this video. I want us, if we're choosing to have kids, to be more intentional about kids. I want parents who already have kids to be more open and share the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly days. Because I think as a society, if we're more informed, then people are going to go into having children. Those who want to have kids, they're going to go into the process of pregnancy, child rearing, parenting with the necessary tools that they decide they need. Because I do think it's a struggle to be a parent if you are unsupported. It's a struggle to be a parent if you are supported. So the more you know, the better prepared you are, and therefore the less likely the chances that you become a regretful parent. And this is not a video of me saying you should or shouldn't have kids. I have friends, I'm godmother to some of my friends' kids, and they waited some of my friends to an older age to have kids to make sure they were financially sound. They'd been to therapy, sorted out their own childhood baggage. They wanted to be at a point where they had their nearest and dearest able to help support them, whether that's their parents, their close friends. I'm able to go visit a friend of mine once, twice a week if needed, hold her baby so she can have a shower, so she can have a nap, bring over meals. I'm just saying that they waited to be ready and they were aware that having a child can be difficult and challenging. I wanted to also share this response to the Reddit's father struggles. The post reads, I struggled with depression after 4 days of my son's birth, and I've been on medication for around 6 months now. My advice to you, because it helped me, is to keep the medication and therapy for as long as necessary. Go to the gym and try to eat healthy. This works wonders. You need daycare, period. I got a bit of my life back after he went to daycare, and it's awesome. My wife didn't like this initially, but I persuaded her, and it's been good for everyone. If you have a good partner, don't divorce. Try to talk about the struggles and the importance of taking care of the relationship. Just because you have a child doesn't mean you need to throw away your relationship. I thought this post was really important because it highlights the fact that if you do, however, find yourself in a situation where you are a regretful parent, you're struggling, it's so important to reach out for help and support and do take action in ways you can to improve your circumstances. Because if you're able to improve the situation even a little bit, that's going to be good for you as the parent as well as the kids. This could be maybe family or friends having some input if that's an option to you. I live in the UK, so it could be seeking help from things like health visitors, your general practitioner who can refer for additional support. I think the goal, in my view, is that you want to be intentional before you have kids. You want to be as prepared as you can. And that doesn't mean you're going to be ready for every eventuality. Life is always going to throw surprises to you, but it means that you're more likely to be able to weather the storm. But should you find yourself in a situation where you are struggling, definitely seek help and resources that are available to you. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in another video.